And I'm blessed to say in the last 20 years, 19, 20 years, we've now fed 70,000 children for the holidays. We've
incredible.
Done over 20,000 backpacks filled with school supplies. We've done over 20,000 teddy bears to the local police departments for their officers to put in their vehicles. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm only saying this because that gave my life meaning.
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else with your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm Chris Grinzik, one of your hosts. Alongside me, as always, John Cohen.
How are we doing? Doing good. It's great.
You're stealing my line.
I know. I am. We have a couple deals that we're getting ready to get to contract. We had a really good seller interview today.
Yeah, that one way better than expected.
Way better than expected. It's a rainy day out here. It was sort of a slow day, but we kicked it off with a great call. We're super excited. Finishing it with awesome podcast today.
Pumped.
Really excited. Really good day. Hoping, fingers crossed, a couple of these deals come to the finish line, and I'm doing well.
For sure. Could be a busy end to the year. But we'll just jump right into it. We got an awesome guest today who was kind enough to join us. Instead of doing the introduction myself, Rod, I'm just going to let you kick it off. You want to do an introduction, tell people about yourself?
Sure. It's painfully boring, but let me do the best I can. So my name is Rod Khleif, and let's go back a little ways if you guys will humor me. I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old. From Holland. Holland. Mm-hmm. And with my brother Albert, my mother's Vantja, we ended up in Denver, Colorado, where I lived for 30 years. And we didn't have much, okay? I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army through junior high school till I could get a job and buy my own clothes. We ate expired food, powdered milk, because my mom thought milk was healthy at the time. And listen, I know you have listeners that had it a lot harder than we did, but I knew I wanted more. And my mom had an incredible work ethic, and she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat, and babysat a lot of kids. And it was, and with that babysitting money, she bought the house across the street from us when I was 14 for about $30,000. When I was 17, about to graduate from high school, she told me it had gone up in value $20,000 in her sleep. And I'm like, what? I'm getting into freaking real estate. And I was like, forget college. I'm going to go make money. I'm going to get into real estate. So I actually got my real estate broker's license right after I turned 18. You could actually become a broker with education back then. They got smart. Now you have to have some experience. But I got it through education. And so I'm going to be rich in real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I made maybe $8,000. My second year, it may be $10,000. Okay. But my third year, I made well over $100,000. So what happened between year 2 and year 3? And this is one of the things I love talking about and talk about at my live events and on my podcast. What happened was I met somebody that taught me about the power of mindset and psychology. It was a guy that I worked with. He was a broker as well. And that's how I was able to 10x my income, because the fact of the matter is your success in anything, as you guys know, is 80 to 90% mindset and psychology.
For sure.
It's only about 10 to 20% the mechanics, the vehicle, the real estate, be it entrepreneurship, be it business or whatever it is. It's 80 to 90% psychology. And now I've been blessed. I followed Tony Robbins around the planet for about 20 years and got to see him speak multiple times a year. And he's probably the best in the world at that conversation. Mm-hmm. But fast forward to today, I've owned over now 2,000 houses that I rented long-term, multiple apartment complexes, and we bought 1,000 doors in like the last 6 to 8 months. And in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. A little bit more than my mom's 20,000.
Just a little bit.
There's a punchline. Don't get excited. There's a punchline. So, but when that happens, you have that kind of a hit. If you don't do the math, it's like $8,300 an hour over the year, which of course I did. And my head got so freaking big I could barely fit it through a door. But when that happens, I thought it was real estate God. And when you get a big head like that, sometimes God or the universe will give you a freaking smackdown. Well, that was 2008. I lost that $17 million and a whole lot more. I had what I call a seminar, and it was a $50 million seminar. I lost everything. I thought I was set for life. I lost everything. And so one of the topics that I like to talk about, if you'll humor me, is the mindset it took to get to that 50 million in the first place, but then to come back from it to the success that I enjoy today. Because a lot of people don't recover from that. I mean, I truly thought I was set for life. I had 800 houses here in Florida and multiple apartment complexes. And I thought I was set. I thought 80 million baby boomers getting old and getting cold, Florida was recession proof. We all know, I mean, we're at ground zero for the contraction.
For sure.
You want me to chat about that briefly? What I do is I talk about how to identify what it is you want, and as importantly, why you want it. If you'd like, I can expand on it a little bit. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, no, I think that, so I'm a big believer in that as well. I know, we have, I have 20, 30 people emailing me, hey, I heard you on this podcast. I tell people you got to work you got to start, work backwards, right? Why do you want what you want? Don't tell me you want to make millions and millions of dollars because you want the money. It's a recipe for never getting off the ground, because then you're going to get shiny object syndrome, and you're going to go from flipping houses to buying real estate to buying Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you always think you have the next best thing down the road. So I say you got to start from why, and why do you want to be there? And then work backwards, because then there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think going into that would be a huge part, because
for sure,
that's what I did. When I started, it wasn't I want to own 5,000 doors. It actually was I wanted to own $250 million worth of real estate, but the reason for it was my family, and they gave me the best life I could have up until I was 25 years old or 22 years old. I wanted to give back to them everything they gave to me as they got older, and I hit my goal 2 years in. And then I said, okay, well, my vision's so much larger because of the reason behind it. So I think if you go into that, that'd be super important, because taking a hit like that and coming back from it, it's not because there's a reason for that. And that's probably where this is going to go.
That's the reason. The reason is I knew exactly what I wanted and why I wanted it. So, at my events and with my coaching students, I take them through a process, and I can do it in just a few minutes, but it takes a little over an hour live. But it's really a goal setting process. And because if you don't know what the hell you want, how are you ever going to get it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bottom line. Clarity is power. You need clarity. So, if you're listening, grab a pen and take some notes. You'll be glad you did. Okay. So the thing you want to do is you want to pick an hour when you're uninterrupted. You've got a lot of energy. Don't, make sure you're well hydrated. Don't do it right after you had a meal, but you're going to sit down and you're going to write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Okay. So, all the stuff, the houses, the boats, the cars, the jet skis, the planes, whatever it is. And don't limit yourself. The only limits that we have are the limits we place on ourselves. So
100%.
Be sure that you don't limit yourself and take the lid off of any limits that you have. And so if you want a private island, write it down. If you fly privately, whatever it is, just write it down. And what this does, this very process of deciding what you want, triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And what that is it's a filter, a subconscious filter in your brain that filters out all the thousands of things that are happening all the time to you, and to hone in on what's most important. Like right now, if I asked you, how your feet feel, you wouldn't be thinking about that, but now you're thinking about that. It's the same dynamic. The best example of your reticular activating system I can think of is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them. You buy it and then you see them everywhere.
All the time.
We just spoke about this the other day.
Yeah, it's so funny.
That's your reticular activating system. And by writing your goals down, it triggers that. So that's step one. Write down everything you want, all the stuff. And what's sad is people spend more time planning Christmas or a birthday party than they do designing their lives. So for God's sakes, if you're listening, spend an hour to design your life. Okay. So you write down all the things you want, write down how much cash flow you want from your real estate monthly, let's say in 3 years, and maybe in a year or 3 years, 10 years. Write down how much money you want in the bank in a year, 3 years, 10 years. And once you can't think of another thing, write down where you want to travel, everything. Write down what you want to do as well. Maybe you want to climb a mountain. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane like I did a couple months ago, which I will never do again. But whatever it is, write it down. Then when you can't think of another thing, write down what you want to learn. Okay, so like me, I want to learn how to fly a helicopter. I want to learn how to play the drums. My wife bought me a drum set. A friend of mine bought me a helicopter lesson. I haven't used either one yet. I don't even know what end of the sticks to use on the drums. It's over there in one of the other buildings in my compound here. But I'm going to learn. So write down what you want to learn. Also, you may want to learn a foreign language. but also write down who you want to help. Maybe you want to help someone in your family. You want to do things for your kids, other family members. I bought my parents a house here in Florida. I bought them a car, took them on cruises. Who do you want to help? So write that down. Everything you want to do, be, or have. And once you can't think of another thing, it's not a goal until it's measurable. So put a time limit on each one of those items you wrote down. This is step 2. Put a number by each goal as to how many years it's going to take you to achieve it. So put a 1, a 3, even a 5, even a 10 or a 20, whatever it is. Remember this, though, and don't overthink it. Those of you that are analytical, by the way, as you're going through this process, don't stop to analyze it. Just keep writing till you can't think of something else. You can scratch it out later, is my point. Don't be a perfectionist with this. Just keep going, because the power of this is in the momentum. So you're going to put a time limit on each goal, but remember one thing. As human beings, we will overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and massively underestimate what we can accomplish in, say, 10 or 20 years. It's staggering what you're capable of over a period of time. Then once you have, in fact, I'll give you a great example of that. When I lived in Denver, I knew I always wanted to live on the beach. There's no beach in Denver. But I had palm trees and pictures of beaches. I'd look at it, I'd visualize it. And I ultimately built this 10,000 square foot, $8 million house on the beach. I owned the beach on one side. It was a Gulf to Bay. So on the back side, I had boat lifts and boathouse. And so, just an incredible mansion that I had built. It was unthinkable when I was 18, when I first started thinking about it. So guys, take the lid off your brain. If you can imagine it, you can achieve it. So once you've got a time limit on each one of your goals, and there's a couple more steps. First, the next thing I want you to do is pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal that if you get you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, that freaking goal. Pick that, put it on another sheet of paper. And if there's 2 or 3, don't sweat it. Just pick one of them, because it won't matter for what we're going to, if there are 2 or 3 that are equally exciting, just pick one of them. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on a separate sheet of paper. So you've got 4 goals on another piece of paper. Your number 1 goal, 3 one-year goals. Now, this is where most people stop. In fact, most people don't even get this far. And so the next thing, but the goals are important. And I'm gonna tell you the goals are important, but I'm gonna tell you that they're not everything. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. But it's the why that's really gonna drive you. It's why those goals are an absolute must. So I want you to write a paragraph for each goal, why it's an absolute freaking must for you to achieve it. And use emotionally charged words like amazing and incredible and unbelievable and beautiful, and just words are very, very powerful. So use emotionally charged words to describe why it's an absolute must. So we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, go wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever it is for you. Also, things like, so I can show my children what success looks like. So I can show my spouse what success looks like. So whatever it is for you, write it down. Put your whys down. Now, once you've got your positive reasons why, I want you to put some pain in there. And here's why. As human beings, we will do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. You use it. This is the fuel, so you take action. So many people will learn how to do something, never do a damn thing with it. It's not about knowledge. If it was just about knowledge, we'd have a ton of wealthy librarians and college professors. It's about the do, okay? And so write down, put some pain in there. So I don't fail my family. So I'm not a failure. So I don't live live a life of failure. So I don't fail my children. Use this. And I'll tell you why this is a big deal. There was a nurse in Australia that wrote a book called The 5 Regrets of Dying. The nurse's name is Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse, and she would ask people at the end of their life if they had any regrets. And she listed the top 5. You know what the number 1 was, guys? It was not living up to my potential, not living the life I could have lived. I was living someone else's life. Guys, we don't want any freaking regrets, okay? So make sure that you use pain as well, because that's what will push you if you've got any limiting beliefs, or if you've got any fears, or worse, if you're comfortable. It's tough to get uncomfortable, and to get the life you want, you have to get uncomfortable, if temporarily. So once you've got that negative whys, then there's only one more step, and that is you need to get pictures of the things that you want and get them around you. Now, we're actually recording this on Zoom so I can show you guys something. If you're listening on iTunes, you won't see this, but I'll describe what I'm showing these guys. And that is, I've got a planner. I use a paper planner, okay? It was a Daytimer, now it's Franklin Covey. Yes, I'm a dinosaur. I still use this damn thing. I use Outlook too, but in the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 20 years, okay? They're dog-eared, they're in plastic. The first pictures of children are pictures of my children when they were very young, because they're my gratitude pictures. Guys, everything starts, as you know, everything starts from a place of gratitude. It's foundational to life, okay? So I've got my gratitude pictures. Then I've got the things that I wanted. What's crazy is, like, here's some house pictures. The picture at the top looks like the house I built on the beach, okay? Just like the windows we had on the bay. I had a 10-foot high glass, 80 feet long, butt together. It was like you were living on the bay. That pictures on the bottom look like the compound I live in now. I mean, it's crazy. I live in this incredible compound at 6 buildings. You can see a picture of my backyard behind me in this thing here. I've got an exercise room, giant one. I've got a media center. It's also a video studio. I've got a giant main house, guest house on the water. And I mean, it's spectacular. And because I lost the house that I built on the beach, and because God's got a sense of humor, I can see it out in my backyard. It's right across the street where I live now. But then, there's the other stuff that I thought was important. By the way, let me say this to you. This stuff doesn't interest me anymore. A lot of this stuff that I'm going to show you, it doesn't interest me anymore. But like the watches, I got a few $100,000 worth of watches. I got a Lamborghini. This was before I ever got it. The Rolls Royce. All this crap that I got because I had pictures. So don't underestimate the power of this. Like, when I first got into real estate, I had this bone ugly Ford Granada, because I figured I had to show houses to people, and so I had to have a 4-door car. Ugliest freaking thing you ever saw. Bench seat in the front. But the guy I worked for that taught me about psychology, this first guy, he had a couple of Corvettes, and he let me drive one. And that's really important too. If there's something you want, experience it as much as you possibly can. Test drive the car, go to open houses in the caliber of house that you want, experience it as much as you can. But he let me drive that Corvette. This was back before there was internet. I got a picture out of a magazine of a Corvette, and I taped it to the visor of that bone ugly gray 4-door Granada. And within a year or two, I had that Corvette. Then after that, this was when the TV show Magnum PI was out, and Tom Selleck was the actor. He drove this Ferrari 308. I thought that was the coolest freaking thing I'd ever seen. I got a picture of that actual car out of a magazine, taped it in my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati, looked just like it. Now, please understand, I'm not bragging. This is just I'm hoping to inspire you guys to take action, because this stuff doesn't even interest me anymore. If you look around me now, you'll see what interests me now. I've got pictures on the walls that are of the things that are important to me now. But this stuff really works, guys. And I know I lost a few of the analytical ones, but I'm here to tell you it would be a mistake, because this is the fuel.
I agree 100%, because because you have to see it to believe it, and experiencing it makes you want it. And if you don't have that want, it's irrelevant. You could say it all day long. So I think everything that Rod just said is pure. If he lost you, listen to it again, because I also think that even if you don't do it, I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but it's when you get down, listening to that gets you that motivation again to go give it another shot. But if you have it in your back pocket, it can't hurt.
Yeah,
it's clarity. Clarity is power. Again, if somebody wants a relationship, they're not in a relationship, and they want to find their significant other, I tell them and I coach them, write down exactly what you want. I mean, like pages of it. And because that gives you clarity. And it's impossible. Like when I met my wife, because I had done that, I had this 8-page document. I mean, what I was looking for in the relationship, and the feelings and the things we do together, and the traits and all this stuff with exhaustive detail. The minute I met her, I knew it was her. And so, this stuff works the same with any goal. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the way, as you were talking, that I kind of put it all together, besides the want and stuff like that, is I think a lot of people look at, there's a big disconnect between the bottom and the top that they see of other people. And you see it a lot today on, social media and the internet. They see somebody who came from, the bottom, and they're the big shot now, like rappers, actors, people that came from really low circumstances like yourself. And now they're in, $1 million mansions, $100,000 cars, throwing stuff around, and they own tons of assets. And there's no actionable steps, which is something I've personally experienced a ton about in the last 6 to 12 months in my own personal life, is creating those steps. And, that's kind of what you were talking about with, goals in 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years. I think also a huge step in between that is creating actions, smaller steps that actually get to those goals as well.
Sure.
I think I've personally seen that.
Yeah, you got to take each goal and work backwards, like you just said a minute ago, John. That's exactly a piece of this for sure, and that makes it real.
Yeah, no, 100%. I played baseball, and I played baseball in college, and I remember I was sitting my junior year. It was our coach brought in an ex-Major League Baseball player, and I played a sport where you fail 7 out of 10 times, and you're a Hall of Famer. So
exactly.
He said, you can't look at a season over 600 at bats, because if you fail 70% of the time, if you fail 70% of the time at anything, it's just so much failure. So he said, if you take it into groups of 10 or 15 or 20 at bats, and if you hit a ground ball to second base and you move a guy to third, that's an 0 for 1 in the books, but that's a 1 for 1. So if you can take that, 600 at bat season, or you break it down into increments, or you take your goals and you have a 1, 5, 3, 7, whatever it is, you take that goal and you work backwards over the calendar, you have achievable milestones that you're hitting. So you get that momentum. I accomplished them. I set out to make 200 calls today to call owners. Once you hit it, it's that momentum to get to the next one, the ultimate goal of whatever it may be. And I agree. I remember when I was a junior and I heard that, I was like, oh, wow, like that's a way to take an 0 for 10. And yeah, it's an 0 for 10, but you had 7 productive outs. And then now you've succeeded 7% of the time. And it makes you feel better about everything, as opposed to just, not getting there.
If you're thinking about the entire outcome, you might not even take that first step. So breaking it down into these, how to eat a whale, breaking it down into those chunks is critical. I want to add something else. I want to expand on what you just said about failure. Every successful person I know has failed multiple times. You fail your way to success. I'm in several masterminds, and one of them I was in, I got to meet Sarah Blakely, and she's the billionaire owner of Spanx. She started with $5,000, and she was on Forbes. She was, worth $4 or $5 billion now. And her dad every night would ask her and the kids, almost every night, but regularly would ask them, what have you failed at today? Isn't that an awesome freaking question?
It is.
It's a great question.
I wish I'd have heard it when my kids were still impressionable. They're 28 and 25 now. The point is, don't fear failure, guys. Those of you listening, don't fear failure. Fear being in the same freaking place you're in right now a year from now. Okay? That's what you should fear. It's okay to get your nose bloodied. It's okay to get your butt kicked. Like I said, you aren't going to match mine most likely. I'll have $50 million freaking dollars. So you got to. There's a high bar to where you really can feel bad. Okay, so the point is, and I'm back. Every one of those. It's never. I call them seminars. They're never failures. They're only a failure if you stop or if you don't learn. Okay. So you recover much faster, and the key is to keep your eye on what you want and why you want it. And that's what I had to do. Yeah, sure, I hid underneath a rock for a couple of months. Yeah, no question. All you see my freaking eyeball poking out of the rock. I was miserable, but because I thought I was set. But then I'm like, F this. Pulled myself up and focused on what I wanted again, reassociated with my goals, and boom, I'm back working it hard. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, even just, the deal we just closed in Columbus, we had, we'll call it a minor issue with the lender right before closing, and not going to touch on it too long because John will talk 50 minutes and rant and whatever. But we sat down, a day or two after. It wasn't a super long conversation, but we just went through, the prior 2 or 3 months, said, hey, was there anything we could have done better? And, to not run into this issue. And we kind of came up, there wasn't really too much we could have done, luckily, and, nice pat on the back for us, but it's the process of kind of sitting down, and as things go wrong, it wasn't even a major failure because we still closed on the deal, but it was touch and go there for a while. But it was sitting down and just kind of analyzing it and saying, hey, what did go wrong? Was there anything we could have done better that we can control, and accepting the things that were out of our control? But same thing. We do it all the time, trying to analyze what could have we done better and do better going forward.
I just did the exact same thing. We had 500 people at one of my live events in Baltimore this last Sunday. I mean, and I got ice on my back as we speak because I'm still recovering. But but there were a lot of things that we didn't do right. And picking the venue was one of them. We'll never go to this. I'm not going to name them publicly, but I'll never go to this brand of hotel again. We're going to step it up on the hotel. And there was a lot of other things. As we, I've literally had pages and pages of emails that I've requested from everyone on my team of ideas of improvement. And that's the best way, that constant, never-ending improvement cycle. Tony Robbins calls it CANI, constant, never-ending improvement, is critical to enhance any business. So really impressed that, you did that with your closing, and that's so critical.
Yeah, I think we do it. I agree. I was going to say, I think it's important because people look at that. Okay, we got to the finish line. It was a successful deal. And I say, you got to learn from your successes too, because you have to look back and you can't always, oh, look, we did everything perfect, everything right. You have to always do something better, tweak it here. Maybe the communication wasn't good, whatever it is, but you have to write that down and make your own playbook or whatever it is. So you understand, okay, let's not address this issue, or how can we address it differently? And I think that's super important to any listener, or we do it internally. I mean, I don't want to say that we're the best at what we do. I'd be lying, but what I know we do well is, we fix problems quickly, and we know what they are, and we admit them, and we look back and say, okay, we could have done this better, or this deal was super successful. We bought it, renovated it, and sold it, but you know what? We could have done it. We should have renovated this first and not that, and let's not make that mistake again. And I think that's where, that question that was asked, learn from your failures. What you fail at today, is an awesome, it's also advice. People think failure's bad. It's only bad if it beats you up and you can't get back up. But failure's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Rod, I actually have
it's never a failure. It's a learning experience.
Exactly.
I think the only people that don't have issues and setbacks and get their nose bloodied aren't alive anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Period. Now, obviously, you're going to have problems. The key is to start working towards higher quality problems.
Yes.
Like we had 200 VIP people at my event, and it was like, there were lines at the bar, and it just wasn't working out well. But it's still a higher quality problem. You know what I'm saying? I was happy about it, but I want to share something else real quick, if you humor me. The only podcast that I really listen to is Tim Ferriss's. He deconstructs. He's got the largest podcast on the planet, and he deconstructs. Like I'm at almost 7 million downloads. I think he's at that a month, right? Total. But he deconstructs world-class performers in all genres, billionaires, world-class athletes, actors, you name it, everything. College professors, but just the best in the world at what they do. And one of the things that I noticed, which was fascinating, is they all have like some sort of a morning ritual, morning routine, and typically it involves some meditation. So if you give me literally 60 seconds, I'd like to share mine because it's really powerful. Is it okay if I share that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very interested.
Okay, so what I do, and guys, it ties into gratitude again, and this, for those of you listening, it's just so freaking important. So what I'll do, and I've got vision boards. You can't see them here. They're behind my green screen here, but I've got vision boards of the things that matter to me now. But there is one that's just gratitude. It's got pictures of my kids, things that matter to me. And what I'll do is I'll sit in my recliner that's back there, and I'll just be grateful for the things in my life, my beautiful, incredible wife, my kids, my coaching students, my foundation. And so I'll just be grateful. But then what I do is then I'm grateful for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I'll say, thank you, God, whatever it is for you, thank you, universe, whatever it is. But I'll just say thank you. And I'll sometimes even get emotional in gratitude for the things that I don't even have yet, okay? Now, I know I lost some of the analytical ones again, but I'm here to tell you this shit works, okay? Just do gratitude for what it is you want, and you will have it. It will come into your life so much faster than you can possibly imagine because, again, it is really triggering your reticular activating system to get what it is you want. So make it happen. And then the last thing I do is and this is a 3 to 5 minute process. It doesn't take very long. Now I do meditate sometimes as well, which is incredibly powerful for focus. Focus is power as well. But the last thing I do is I just make a declaration that it's going to be a great day. And it almost always is. So that's it. Now I've had Elrod on my show, and he's got a book called The Miracle Morning, which is an incredible process where you exercise and then you journal and then you read a good book and you meditate a little bit. Fantastic. I've given away hundreds of copies to my coaching students. Great book as well. But the point is you should have a morning ritual to be a success, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree, disagree, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, no. So what I like to do, it's similar. So my first daughter, she's 7 months old. I just had her the other day. So
she's adorable. She came into the office for the first time yesterday.
Awesome.
We got no work done for about an hour, but it was a really good hour.
So, but I think subliminally, I've done stuff like that because now my mornings have changed a little bit. But I love waking up and taking care of her for the first 2 hours before my wife wakes up. And I find myself doing stuff like that. And my partner said, you got to videotape those mushy videos. You're the greatest, you're the best. And I've seen myself doing that. And I'm just getting so much more accomplished. But before that, I would write down stuff at night that I knew I had to get done. And depending how long that list was, I woke up a little earlier, I woke up a little later. But the one thing that, my mom says it all the time, my wife, I tell people every day, as bad as my day was, tomorrow is always better. And as bad as I felt the day before, I wake up the next day, no matter what happened, as if it's the best day that's ever happened to me. And I always feel that way tomorrow. So I feel great today.
Yeah.
As you say it, so shall it be, man. As you say it, so shall it be. You make that kind of a declaration. When you meet somebody and they say, how you doing? You say, fantastic. Even if you're not fantastic, you feel better because of the way you describe your situation. I love it.
I do. And then people say all the time, it's like, how could you not have stress? It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's just truly, I am blessed every day. I thank, everyone around me. And I always feel like tomorrow's going to be better. Whether it is or it isn't, we'll figure out when we get there. But there's no reason why I can't think that. I think that it has, whether it's morning ritual or not, and, I'm not saying I do it every morning, but I personally, truly to the core feel that tomorrow is always better. And I feel great today. I feel better tomorrow. And, that stuff, I don't know what it's, the last 7 months have been great, new daughter, but the mornings you find yourself doing stuff differently, and it's definitely helped. So let
me give you a little father-daughter coaching. It'll take 30 seconds.
That's it.
I think you're already doing this. You're already hugely successful. So you don't have that desperate need for success that a lot of people do. But I will tell you, my greatest regret in life was building that house on the beach, coming home to that house on the beach, this $8 million testament to my ego that I built, which is really what it was, to prove to the world I was good enough, coming home to that thing and playing with my kids every night, but not being there mentally. My greatest regret to this day. And they'll tell you I was a great dad, but I did not live up to my own expectations. So I'm going to say this to you. When you're with your baby girl, and I'm sure this is already the case, but this is for those listening that it's not the case, be totally present, because she and your bride would rather have your total presence for freaking 15 minutes than an hour of distraction.
Oh no, absolutely. So it's awesome advice. I had someone else tell me something similar, and when she was born, I did it, and then it, like anything else, you get into a habit, and so I leave the office every day now between 5 and 5:30. We were actually going to try and do another podcast after this, but I said no because I'm able to get home earlier. And what was happening was, because I'm leaving a little bit earlier from the office, people were calling me. So I would pull into my driveway on the phone, walk into the house. But like maybe about 5 weeks ago, when I pull in, my wife will be holding her by the window. And if I don't come right in, she starts crying. So now when I get home, I put the phone away she goes to bed at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I phone down, no communication. I'm on the floor rolling around with her until she goes to bed. But that's, it's an automatic now because it's the best advice ever. They're so impressionable at that time. Yes. You want to give them every hour you can. And, my wife's luckily, she works she stays home with the baby, and that's a full-time job. I get to see her 2 hours in the morning and an hour at night. And then on the weekends, I don't do anything anymore.
Right, last little bit of advice that we know that baby girl is the center of your universe. Don't forget the date nights with your bride.
Yep. Need them. Right. You need them.
Your baby will model your relationship.
Yep.
Anyway, we're off topic. I just love talking.
Just a little bit. Is this completely off topic? A real estate podcast or a?
Right. Guys,
no, but this is equally as important.
If you're not happy at home, there is no real estate.
No, for
absolutely.
Sure.
The relationships are foundational to life, let alone real estate.
Correct.
Okay?
No,
100%. It's critical.
No, I'm actually really happy this went into a mindset thing, because I think it's almost more important than knowing the real estate side. Because, like you said, you can know everything about real estate. Doesn't mean you're ever going to do well.
Action, and never do a damn thing with it.
Yeah.
And then we spoke about it briefly before we started. there's 1,000 podcasts out there, right? Everyone talks about well, this deal was great. I made 50 grand in 30 days and 100 grand. I sold this, but this is the stuff that makes that possible.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that people don't, talk about.
Yeah.
Let me share one last thing before I forget. It's really important. It relates to goals. So I built that house on the beach, that first one, when I lost, okay? And at 10,000 square feet. And about 2 months after I built it, just to describe it, okay? I told you I had 80 feet of glass in the back. I could lay in bed on the top floor, look left and see the beach, look right and see the bay. There's a giant waterfall on the second floor in the pool, giant spiral staircase up to the middle of the house. On the second floor, this will give you an idea. On the second floor, I had aquariums that cost just under $200,000 around this. That gives you an idea of the house, okay? So I'm floating in the pool 2 months after I built it. And I'm looking up at this, again, testament to my ego. I truly built it to prove the world I was good enough. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. And I'm looking up at this thing that I'd achieved. This waterfall coming out of the second floor. The pool's changing colors at night because it had fiber optic lighting, another waterfall out of the spa. Really thousands of dollars worth of trees that floated out over the pool. And I got really depressed 2 months after I built it. Worked for this thing for 20 years. And I mean, I got really depressed, not just bummed. I'm like, what the F is going on? I just achieved success way beyond societal standards. So how could I possibly be depressed? And that's what I want to share with your listeners. There were two things going on. First is, and this relates to the goals, never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Because like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future. It's like, what the hell do I do now? I didn't know what I was going to do next. So that's number one. But the second thing, even more important, was I had been totally focused on me. Rod. Show the world I'm good enough. It's all about me having to prove myself. And so luckily I came across, I read some books, and one of them was Tony Robbins' book, and a shout out for him. But I went and saw him that year. And I found out, and I was blown away by his technology, and that's why I followed him around for 20 years, just because I was so blown away with the quality of his content. And by the way, if you have a chance to see him, just freaking do it. Trust me, while he's still speaking, give yourself that gift. But I found out that he fed families for the holidays. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I had been totally just focused on Rod. I came back, decided to feed 5 families. Third family changed my life. I go up to this house, and to say it was a shithole would be kind. Okay, it was a 1-bedroom shack where you walk into the living room, you walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which had the bathroom off of it. It's called a shotgun, but you got to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen. Just a real piece of crap. She had 5 kids, single mom, 5 kids. So I brought a basket of food with a frozen turkey for Thanksgiving, even a roasting pan because I assumed she didn't have one, toys for the kids. We called a church to find out who really needed help, and this was one of the families. She comes out, she sees this basket of food, she starts crying. Some of her kids come out, some of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm freaking hooked. And I'm blessed to say in the last 20 years, we've now fed 70,000 children for the holidays. We've
incredible.
Done over 20,000 backpacks filled with school supplies. We've done over 20,000 teddy bears to the local police departments for their officers to put in their vehicles. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm only saying this because that gave my life meaning. There's a big difference between success and fulfillment. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Big difference. And I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. And so, like I'll interview people on my podcast, and like I was telling you guys before we started recording, we're about to hit 7 million downloads. So, it's very well received, but I'll interview guys on there that are mega, mega wealthy. I mean, billionaire or damn close. And I could see that energy that because I recognize it because it was me, that narcissistic energy. So guys, if you're listening, trust me, success without giving back in some fashion is not success. Okay. And you may think it is, but it's not. And if you're thinking that you need financial success to help someone else, that is absolutely BS. You can pick a family and help one family. You can help an elderly person. You can, find something that you love, that you're passionate about, that makes you get emotional if you do something to help. It can be animals, it can be the environment, whatever it is. But have something bigger than just the money, because that's what will give your life a richness beyond anything else. You don't have to do anything as big as I did, but do something. Otherwise, it's truly not success.
No, I agree. I mean, I think so. The feeding the families, it touches a button with us because our family does a drive every year. My grandfather did it. He would feed like almost probably close to about 5,000-6,000 families a year for Thanksgiving. Wow. So we've, every holiday, we would go. He would take us to Toys R Us. There's 10 of us. when we'd all get a shopping cart filled with toys, bring it to a different church. And so every year for Thanksgiving now, we have a Thanksgiving drive and we launch it. And I basically tell people, if you give 5,000, I'll match it. You give 10, whatever your gift is, I'll match it dollar for dollar, because you're right. And I mean, even our monthly event, during the holidays, it's completely free. We don't charge a nickel, but for Thanksgiving during that month, bring a canned food and we're going to go drop it off. And during Christmas, bring a toy. I could not agree with that more. I mean, it's like the movie Pay It Forward to a degree, but I think that that's a critical part to, feeling better about, about everything. Cause I could understand that, where, like you said, sitting in a pool, who knows what happens, but that's a part of life that's hard to, without having that other thing, you could be, money doesn't make you happy, right? I mean, sometimes it does, but there's a whole nother element.
No, I mean, it's not just the money, man. Every one of us was put on this earth to contribute. I will tell you, anything in the universe that doesn't contribute actually gets eliminated. Okay. So it's a basic human need to contribute. So, but
I love that.
I know we haven't talked a damn bit about real estate. I'm happy to do that another time with you guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
Honestly, this is so much more important.
No, I hear you.
I hope your listeners hung in there, because truly this is the secret sauce. It's not about the mechanical stuff. It's about
anyone can buy a pro forma. We had a lender the other day. He emailed us. He said, "Hey guys, I'm not familiar with this market. Do you know anything about it?" I was like, "Actually, I hate that market." He said, "Well, a guy emailed me, had no idea what was going on, but he said it penciled well." And I'm like, you can make anything pencil well, but the reason behind it is what we want. So I think this is, it wasn't real estate focused, but I think this is the stuff that you got to have, real estate as your bread and butter. Yep. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the largest hurdle? Cause you have all the events and coaching and clients and stuff like that. For people that are newer or working on mindset of real estate, what's the biggest hurdle that people have?
Let me mention a couple things though. A couple resources that are free. Of course, my podcast, like yours, we're all about adding value. And I have a clip every week on mindset. So it's 5 minutes. And even if you decide real estate's not for you, it'll help you anyway. So I hope you'll check it out. But I think the biggest thing is to be around people that are doing this. Like, I know you guys have a meeting every month. I've got a Facebook group. It's now the largest multifamily Facebook group on the planet. It's almost 30,000 people. Should hit 30,000 this week. And so whatever it is, get around people. And by the way, if you're interested in that, it's multifamilycommunity.com, direct link to that group. But even if not that, get around people that are doing what it is you want to do, or ideally have done it, like these two, because a rising tide lifts all ships. You want to be around people that are beyond where you are. There's always another level. And like I host a mastermind. It's the largest multifamily masterminds, over $5 billion in assets in it. And we've got a guy flying in this November to our event that's got 17,000 doors, and they're all his. They're not syndicated. And so, there's always another level. Even beyond him, there's another level. There's Sam Zell or, somebody like that. But get around people that are like-minded, because they think what you think is hard is easy. And so they can give you those little nuances, those little nudges, like you guys can with the incredible portfolio you have to push somebody over and keep them from making the mistake and all of that. But right now, obviously, the biggest challenge is finding deals, for sure. Yep. So and so I tell anybody that's brand new, the best way to do it is to align with somebody that's done it for your first couple of years, so that you can go up to a broker and say, we own 1,000 doors, or we own 500 doors. So align with somebody that's done it, so you can use their experience to develop a relationship and start a relationship in a sponsorship capacity, for example, to get your first couple deals done. And another great way is to start passively. If you guys got screaming deals coming down the pike, and guys, if you're listening, invest in one of their deals, because then you see the behind the scenes stuff, and you see exactly what's stuff that I couldn't possibly teach from stage, because there's too many little nuances. I don't know if I answered the question, Chris, but
no, I think it's a good answer.
I think it's a great answer.
It's really interesting, because it's how basically both of us started, where, John's, you're what, 5-6 years older than me? 5?
Yeah.
He had his person he learned from, and, the way I kind of started was just how you said, invested passively. Then we JV'd on a couple, and then I came in full time under the umbrella, and it was so much different from, trying to figure it out ourselves. We were trying to flip at the time, and we pivoted into it, and we failed. We didn't flip a single home. We did it for 6, 7, 8 months. Me and my mom, my cousin, failed to flip a single thing because no real mentorship.
That's a great thing. Thank God.
No, it was. It taught so many things.
Still be a flipper. Okay.
Yes.
Thank God that happened.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I just joined Collective Geniuses Mastermind. It's the best flippers and wholesalers on the planet. I just joined their mastermind because they do a great job on their mastermind, and I wanted to see how they do it. And of course, those guys ultimately want to get into multifamily because they're working their asses off, and we're building cash flow.
Yep.
My podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow for a reason. We want cash flow. We don't want to go back to work every January 1st, right?
Exactly.
So thank God that didn't work out.
No,
I apologize.
No, for sure. No, it's a very valid point, but it's just from there we said, all right, how do we do this? We said, let's, put our trailer to somebody else that can kind of pull us along and get us where we're going. And then eventually we can, pick it up ourselves. And then, instead of splitting off and doing it myself, I just said, screw it, I'll join full time and come in and do it. And, probably the best decision of my life. But it was the same thing. It was, getting my foot in the door, putting my money where my mouth is, learning, then taking over responsibilities and making it bigger. And you just continue to piggyback off somebody else and kind of learn and gain experience.
It'll save you so many mistakes. It'll,
For sure.
I didn't get that memo soon enough. So in my events, I had this saying, ask me how I know. When I talk about something horrific, in fact, I even have a t-shirt now. It's pound ask me how I know that I give out at the events because, I've made every freaking mistake you can make. So, but why? There's so many smart, guys like you guys that are out there adding value. And there's so much great content out there. So many people you can align with and mentor under. It's crazy not to do that.
No, people, I was going to say, people discount, investing passively first, right? People are like, I want to be in charge. That's fine. But with in charge comes major problems and headaches. And, we have a kid in the office now. He just put some money into our deal as a, hey, can I come into the office and I'm going to help you. I'm going to add value. I also want to learn, can you give me a little bit more? And we all day long, but people discount that component of the deal. Understand what it's like to be an investor.
That's a mistake. And I'll tell you, in my mastermind, like I said, I've got close to $5 billion in assets. And I will tell you, most of those people started passively.
Yep.
So, and so, it is a normal trajectory where you start passively in a deal. You get it on your resume. Okay. You actually get better interest rate from agency debt if it's on your resume. And then you naturally progress into a co-sponsorship deal, and then ultimately you become a sponsor. It's a natural progression,
yep.
For a lot of people. So, yeah.
I agree. No, I think that it's the piece of advice you asked, what are the challenges? I think that Rod answered them beautifully because it gives people that game plan. It goes back to your goals, right? What do you want to do?
Actionable steps.
It's actionable. Take those steps, and that's the number one message here is that you got to take action.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do something, whether it's buy a book, listen to a podcast, write a check, or buy a deal. Pick one.
Yeah.
or all the above.
Exactly.
But definitely a great way to start is passively, no question. So.
For sure. Awesome. I think that's a great place to end it.
Agreed.
I think you gave us a ton of great stuff to listen to. Definitely something I'm going to listen back to and try to pick up a couple little things I missed live. But before we go, tell everybody who for some reason doesn't know you, where they can find out more about you, get in touch with you, all that fun stuff.
I dropped some stuff already, but I will tell you this. If you're interested in multifamily, I've got an incredible free book on my website. I was giving away my book, and I gave away 20,000 copies of this 200-page book that's like a textbook. And my team finally said, hey, stupid, why don't you put it on Amazon and make some money? So now it's on Amazon. But I replaced it with something that's equally valuable. And that's it's called a multifamily handbook, but it's almost like a due diligence checklist. It's the most comprehensive one I've ever seen. Every possible question you'd ever want to ask. And it's free there. So the price is good. And I've got other books and articles and videos and I mean, just tons of content. And it's rodkhleif.com. It's KHLEIF.com. That Facebook community, it's 30,000 people. Again, you are the 5 people you hang around with. You want to be around people that want what you want. It's multifamilycommunity.com, direct link to that group. And then if you ever want total immersion, I do 3 events a year. They always sell out. I just had 500 people in Baltimore, and it was packed to the gills. Next one is in Los Angeles, so I don't know when this episode airs, but it's in January in Los Angeles. It's rodinlosangeles.com. Would love to see you. I'm very, very reasonable. And it's just me for 3 days. I don't bring in outside speakers to sell you shit like everybody else does. It's just me teaching for 3 days. So, but thanks for being on the show, guys. I know your podcast, I can already tell your podcast is going to be an incredible success just based on the energy between you guys and the interaction. It's going to be
awesome.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. That means a lot. Oh. Getting a phone call. There you go.
It's actually the broker. It was actually the broker that helped facilitate a transaction. We've been calling a group. It's off market. We've been calling them for 8 months, 9 months, maybe longer to buy some of their deals. They have one-off deals left. It's a large company. They had about 25,000 doors. They're down to about half that. And it's their last asset in Jacksonville. So he was actually calling us. Hopefully we got the deal. So we'll see.
Go get him. Go get him.
Obviously, I appreciate it.
Listen, guys, it was a pleasure to meet you. And I appreciate you having me on the show. And I look forward to getting to know you better.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Sir.